Today we are covering designing Microsoft Azure infrastructure solutions. To find the complete list of questions and answers, please go to the playlist link provided in the description. If you like this content, do like, share and subscribe to this channel. Question is, you are designing a microservices architecture that will be hosted in an Azure Kubernetes service AKS cluster. Apps that will consume the microservices will be hosted to Azure virtual machines. The virtual machines and the AKS clusters will reside on the same virtual network. You need to design a solution to expose the microservices to the consumer apps. The solution must meet the following requirements. First, ingress access to the microservices must be restricted to a single private IP address and protected by using mutual TLS authentication. Second, the number of incoming microservice calls must be rate limited. Third, cost must be minimized. Should you include in the solution? Option A, Azure API Management Premium Tier with Virtual Network Connection. Option B, Azure Front Door with Azure Web Application Firewall WAF. Option C, Azure API Management Standard Tier with a Service Endpoint. Option D, Azure App Gateway with Azure Web Application Firewall WAF. Correct answer is option A. Next question is, you need to deploy resources to host a stateless web app in an Azure subscription. The solution must meet the following requirements. First, provide access to the full .NET framework. Second, provide redundancy if an Azure region fails. Third, grant administrators access to the operating system to install custom application dependencies. Solution: you deploy an Azure virtual machine to two Azure regions, and you deploy an Azure application gateway. Does this meet the goal? Options are yes or no. Correct answer is no. Next question is, you need to deploy resources to host a stateless web app in an Azure subscription. The solution must meet the following requirements. First, provide access to the full .NET framework. Second, provide redundancy if an Azure region fails. Third, grant administrators access to the operating system to install custom application dependencies. Solution: you deploy a Azure Virtual Machine scale set that uses auto scaling. Does this meet the goal? Options are yes or no. Correct answer is option B, means no. Next question is, your company plans to deploy various Azure App Service instances that will use Azure SQL databases. The App Service instances will be deployed at the same time as the Azure SQL databases. The company has a regulatory requirement to deploy the App Service instances only to specific Azure regions. The resources for the App Service instances must reside in the same region. You need to recommend a solution to meet the regulatory requirement. Solution: you recommend using the regulatory compliance dashboard in Azure Security Center. Does this meet the goal? Options are yes or no. Correct answer is no. Next question is, you have an Azure resources shown in the following table. You need to deploy a new Azure firewall policy that will contain mandatory rules for all Azure firewall deployments. The new policy will be configured as a parent policy for the existing policies. What is the minimum number of additional Azure firewall policies you should create? Option A 0, option B 1, option C 2, option D 3. Correct answer is option B. Next question is, you have an Azure subscription that contains an Azure Blob storage account named Store 1. You have an on-premises file server named Server 1 that runs Windows Server 2016. Server 1 stores 500 GB of company files. You need to store a company of the company files from Server 1 in Store 1. Which two possible Azure services achieve this goal? Each correct answer presents a complete solution. Option A, an Azure Batch account. Option B, an integration account. Option C, an on-premises data gateway. Option D, an Azure import-export job. Option E, Azure Data Factory. Correct answer is option D and option E.